13th of February, the world honors radio broadcasters for informing us, educating us, and entertaining us. World Radio Day was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012, a year after the proclamation by UNESCO. And this date of the 13th of February is not just a random date, it's actually the date that the United Nations Radio was established in 1946. This year, the theme of World Radio Day is Radio and Artificial Intelligence, popularly known as AI, a recognition of the transformation, some would say disruption, that every sector in society, and radio is no exception, is facing from the power of AI. So what's the impact of AI on the radio industry in Kenya as a whole, and specifically the country's public broadcaster, KBC? Does radio even have a future that we're able to look into? How would we prepare for such a future? We're going to reflect on those issues and to help us understand some of the changes that we've already witnessed and those that are bound to come in the future, how we as broadcasters can position ourselves for that transformation to deepen the connection with our audiences. We've got a very distinguished panel, and I'm more than privileged to welcome them to our discussion. Today we start with the Managing Director of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, Agnes Kalecha. Welcome.
For having me.
Wonderful to have you. Secretary, Information and Broadcasting, Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy, Mr. Temesi Mukani.
Thank you very much, John, for having me.
Brilliant. We've also got the IEBC Commissioner. He's in charge, actually, of voter education, partnerships, communications, and stakeholder engagement. He's also an advocate of the High Court, so matters law are completely conversant issues for him. Dr. Alutalala Mukhwana.
Asante sana kwa makaribisho.
Asante sana. And last but not least, Martin Masai, Trustee, Kenya Editors Guild, and Chair of the Guild's Ethics and Media Freedom Committee.
Thank you, and pleasure to be here.
We all have a story with KBC, but let's begin with the Managing Director. World Radio Day, but at KBC we celebrate it as a week. Why?
Thank you for that question. You know, as KBC, as a national broadcaster, I can tell you World Radio Day is not just a single day event for us. It's a celebration of radio enduring legacy. We extend it for a full week because radio has been the heartbeat of our nation. Now, this year, activities include community outreach in places like Kisumu. We are visiting schools. We are having here at, Broadcasting House, we are having, all our listeners come and just understand the journey where we all started. For us at KBC, a week is like a big nationwide shukrani. It's a thank you to you, our listeners. We just don't broadcast to you, we go to you. Our teams right now are out in the field, and they're listening, they're recording, they're talking to people who remember our first broadcasting. So we're holding workshops also for young people. We have schools coming in. It's a week full of celebration. We do it for a week because Radio Story in Kenya is a long, beautiful novel, not a short headline, and we want every chapter to be told.
Yeah, but we're living in an age when people want to condense the communication in so many characters. Can you reflect on that dilemma that the Managing Director of KBC has just painted there? At the ministry level, you're having to regulate and to come up with policy that governs not just one media house, one public broadcaster, as was in the past, but you've got a multiplicity of voices.
Well, thank you very much, John, and congratulations to KBC for hosting this week. I think it's one of those things that takes you down memory lane, and you can imagine the distance we've come as a country, and our history as a nation is quite related to the history of radio. From our radio station in the early 90s at the dawn of multi-party democracy to 350 today. It's quite been a journey. And that journey has been underpinned by deliberate policy shifts, from the repeal and the introduction of multi-party democracy to the late 1990s, opening up of the airwaves, that growth has been deliberate, and government has been at the center of it all. So the policy, shifts over the years, and even as technology shifts, government is also playing its part to make sure that even as we discuss AI today, that our media houses, radio can be able to fit into the technological shifts. Simply because media, and radio is a great advancer. It's a great mover of the development of the Republic. People get to know what's happening across the country. They adopt technologies in agriculture and all sectors of the economy really through media. So we are proud as a government, as a country, the far we've come. And you can see with more media houses, our young people are getting employed, they're generating content, it's having global influence. So as government, really, we are proud of the journey we have traveled.
Yeah, we'll come back to the MD to speak a little bit more about being an original content creator and having everyone being a content creator now. It's just crazy to think about it. Let's speak to one of our key stakeholders, big partner, the IBC. I think you come in here, as you've been telling us, every week to speak in your local language and just to give voter education. When you speak to the people in the nooks and crannies of this country and you tell them about the work that you're doing at IBC and also their rights and responsibilities as citizens of this country, do you stop at some moments to acknowledge the huge power that radio has? Here you are seated in that small studio and just speaking to, reaching people and communicating with them and making them understand the power that they have as citizens of this country.
Thank you. Indeed, as a matter of fact, I'll be meting out the service to KBC if I don't acknowledge that KBC Radio has been the longest standing partner with IBC. That must go down as an accolade because KBC stands right in the middle of the history of elections communications in this country. I have personally been present on KBC Radio Ingo for 2 years, as I've said, before I joined the commission. And this young lady known as Amy Sakwa.
The breakfast.
Yeah, the breakfast. Radio Ingo.
Yeah.
That's how it's called.
Yeah.
So that speaks to how central the radio is. And as I sit here in that small room and I speak in mother tongue, the kind of questions that keep coming tell me that radio gets personal, radio is direct, radio speaks to the minds, and radio speaks to the hearts of our people. And therefore, I'm very, very excited to be part of this celebration. I was telling Madame MD that now it is time that she sweeps clean here and makes sure that KBC punches above her weight.
You're not saying KBC is punching below its weight, are you saying that?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it should punch above its weight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Martin Masai, trustee, Kenya Editors Guild, but you also hold you chair a very important committee, which is the Ethics and Media Freedom Committee. When you're speaking in an age of social media, when it's not just the hundreds of radio stations that the Secretary of Information and Broadcasting spoke about, but there's people creating content every single second. And young people, and some of them are in our audience today, they're going to speak to you. How do you even talk about ethics? Like, what's the place of ethics in AI?
Yeah, thank you for that question, John. And we are at the horns of a dilemma over AI. And I look at AI more as an enabler to what we do in journalism. I look at it as an opportunity to make things easy in a big sense, in terms of the turnaround time that AI does a lot of things, including transcriptions, translations, even analysis. But I think much more importantly from the ethical perspective, that our audiences need to know who is the hand, who is the writer of it. Is it a person or is it technology? Because the moment there is that disconnect, that our audiences will get a feeling that they're dealing with machines, then our audiences will look for other alternatives. So there must be some good level of policy interventions for us to have it clearly stated when AI has been deployed, so that there is a disclaimer even in every content, that there is hand in AI, but more importantly, with a human direction. Because that way you keep the confidences that it's not a machine. And in as long as we don't tell our audiences that we are deploying AI, we will take responsibility for mistakes that also come with AI. Because you deploy AI to do 1, 2, 3, you discover it will do 4, 5, 6, and it's probably not what you really want. And if you just rush to do it, the point I'm making is there must be a human hand in whatever we do after deploying AI. And it is important to say that I have been assisted to produce this program by AI. There are particular things AI can do in terms of cleaning up language, sometimes much better than some human beings, and in a faster way, especially in the world of deadlines.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we've got an expert on AI from the ICT Authority. We'll speak to him in just a short while, but I just wanted to hear the thoughts of the Managing Director, KBC. It must be such a challenging time. I know you like challenges, so you think of it as an exciting time, but, you know, heading an organization like this in an era when, as Mr. Messiah has just been saying, machines are doing work, and then you've got staff that are concerned, are jobs still secure, you know, why do I how do you strike that balance? When do I deploy a machine? When, you know, when do I deploy a human being? It's tough.
Yeah, and I think the question that also comes to mind is that are journalists safe in this era?
Are they?
Yeah. Well, I understand this fear, and I see it every day in our eyes of our young reporters. Let me be clear: machines will not get your job, but a person who knows how to use that machine might. Now, let me explain. Imagine you're a brilliant editor, and we have editors. You spent days, hours, every night, you know, cutting out ums and ahs in an interview. What if an AI tool comes and does that rough cut in 10 minutes?
That's what Masai was referring to. Quicker, more efficient. Yeah.
So I think for you, start thinking of AI as that fundi new spanner. It makes your job easier, but the fundi is still the one who knows how to fix it. We are not letting go of our editors, so their jobs are still there. We are freeing them to be better.
See a few of them smiling?
Yeah, we are freeing them to be better journalists.
Yeah.
Their jobs are changing from mechanical to doing more thinking, doing the creative part, the more important that. And that, for me, is a better, safer job. So your jobs are still safe.
That's quite a assurance. Are you getting those kind of challenges at the ministry level when... AI and policy and so on and so forth, and how you confronting those challenges?
I think, John, we as a sector, the media sector has gone through a lot of transformations over the years, and AI is one of those, and we discuss it now because it's the latest, among the latest, but over the years you've seen we have survived quite a number of, turbulence, transitions or disruptions, if you want to call them like that. But what we at the ministry are more concerned about is enabling policy and framework that, for example, if you look at a radio broadcast, mostly are in vernacular. So what is the place of vernacular radio broadcasts, and how are the AI modules and platforms that we have, how do they fit in? How are we enabling our people to generate and to work around AI tools that can be able to harvest the content that we have in vernacular? That's one of the things we are concerned about at the ministry, because that is where the store of our heritage is. That's where most of our people are in terms of radio, and we are unique. Every society is unique, and so the models that are coming in for AI are not to be consumed wholesome. And so I must also say that if you look at all the other mass media modes that we have around, I think radio has quite been very resilient in terms of technology, in terms of transitions over the years, and so we are also seeing that radio would really benefit from AI and the new technologies are coming on board. So we are not worried much about how we will be able to fit into the changes, but how best do we use this technology to serve our national interest. and that is how do we promote our languages, how do we get our people to monetize their content and use these tools to store our heritage and to push our national interest.
Yeah, and this week we've been celebrating quite a bit of our broadcasting heritage on this World Radio Week, but you used the word resilient, which is a fantastic word to describe radio, and we've discussed some of those turbulent periods, introduction of TV, color TV, the TV came, social media came, mobile technology came, now the technology boom, yet radio just keeps transforming and retaining its relevance. But what do you put down that resilience to, as someone who's worked with radio, someone who's listened to radio through the years? What would you determine that resilience? For how long can that resilience actually last?
It is basically what it does. And I agree with what the MD has said, that if you are to take a fundi and the tool cannot replace the fundi. It is the fundi who knows how to apply the tool, and therefore the fundi's position is secure. Let's juxtapose that with the functionality of the radio. You see, when my mother, deep down in the village, in Ituti village of Butere sub-county, is listening to Radio Ngo, the kind of questions that she raises are questions that are village specific. And then radio has this way of coming up with practically a broad range of solutions for village specific problems. For example, you'll find that there are now even comedians from the villages. Radio takes this. And so it is very easy to have connectedness between what it is that my mother in the village is going through. It is experiential. It is connectedness. And therefore, you cannot say there's a radio for the nation. There's a radio for the village. There's a radio for the individual. And that is why I think KBC in its own wisdom has 15 radio stations speaking in mother tongue.
23.
23, yeah. Congratulations, yeah. That's quite a bit.
Some speak multiple, some carry multiple languages.
Precisely.
Yep.
So it is the utility of the radio as it is, as a medium of communication. And that is why I still feel that even the social media platforms are not a competition to the radio. They're actually augmenting and complementing what it is that the radio does. Look, when Mama Kayai came up just a short while ago, it was very nostalgic to me. I missed Mama Kayai. I missed Mzo Juang. Why? Because growing up, they depicted my social settings down in Kibra, where I was growing up. They would act in a kiosk somewhere. They would act how people behave. And so, back to your question, why is radio resilient? It's because it is people-specific. It addresses the hearts and the minds of that mama who is in the village. And they speak in a language she understands. And the radio brings speakers who are suave in that language. They speak deep Luya. And even the hosts who are brought, by the way, some of us qualify to be there because we speak Luya properly. I'm not sure my brother here. I was giving the MD an exam when that lady spoke of Maito. And I was asking her if she knows. And I could see the struggle. Then Mike Roa was being introduced, and she was struggling. Who's Mike Roa? But I'm sure in the village, the fellows will quickly identify. So the radio has utility that is specific, it's unique, and appeals to the people directly. You will not replace radio, not in the short term.
Yeah, I can see Masai is burning, you're itching to jump in. Go ahead.
You know, I'm probably one of the few journalists here who has moved from print to radio. I've had that experience, and until I got to radio, then I discovered that I really missed a lot in my career as a journalist. Because radio surely is the most powerful communication tool. A radio can call a village from their homes to the market center and ask them to go back. And they go back. That's how. A radio...
It's command.
It is absolutely. A radio speaks to your heart, and it doesn't interfere with you. radio, you don't need to sit the way I look at television or read a newspaper, you know, to engage. And now that we have radios in vernacular stations, the conversation got better. In fact, I get worried. This time, not that I have issues with Baba and Mama, but I think Baba and Mama did a very important thing.
When you say Baba and Mama, you mean KBC, right?
KBC.
Yeah, just clarifying here.
Yes. To till the land in readiness for the change that the director has just indicated here, that came such that we now have 315 radio stations. To me, it means the ground was ready for many conversations. And as we sit here, you can imagine the conversations that are taking place out there, directly, people speaking to their leaders. Because with the advent of devolution, we didn't devolve media. But something happened that now we have radios speaking there. So as we celebrate this World Radio Day, there could not have been a better thing in our lifetime than radio.
Yeah, really quick here.
Thank you. Another very important feature, thanks for coming up, because then you've just given me, my mind has been tickled, the essence of preserving our culture as a people. And I must thank your chairman of the board,
Who's here? We'll hear from him
Mr.
shortly.
Tom Shindi,
Yeah.
the veteran really,
Yeah.
who talked about the challenge that you're now going to have is how we identify ourselves as a people. And that is so critical because we are at crossroads. Our children are neither us nor neither other people. Our children are having problems speaking their mother tongue. Our children are having problems eating our foods. Our children are eating foreign foods. Our children are having problem identifying with who we are as a people. And radio is very, very critical in helping us salvage what it is that I think is an important heritage, our mother tongue. The language they speak does not speak to who we are as a people. The food they eat. The other day, I had the privilege to go to Uganda, and I was amazed at how Ugandans have organic food in huge supply. And in the hotel where I was seated, I was looking at the customers who would come in, and people who looked like near my age were going for the organic food.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that the younger people coming in were asking for chips and burgers.
And pizzas.
Yes, and that tells you we need the radio to speak to the mind. We need radio to speak to the culture so that we can have our identity as a people.
Okay, let's head to a quick break. Thank you so much. What a wonderful panel. What brilliant discussions. And there'll be lots more from this panel and from our audience. And a few other experts speaking from the ICT perspective, from the training perspective. And I think the chairman of the board of KBC brought up that cultural element in terms of radio's power to influence culture. So we'll reflect on all of that. You've included the young guys. They're there, and they're going to pose a few challenges to you when we come back right after this break. Welcome back to this very exciting discussion on World Radio Week, because here at KBC we celebrate not just World Radio Day, but we reflect on the challenges, the progress, and the future of radio for an entire week. And that's why we've put together this very distinguished panel to help us reflect on those discussions, as you already had in the first part of this program with the KBC MD Agnes Kalecha. Let me just reintroduce them. Secretary Information and Broadcasting, Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy, Mr. Temesi Mukhani. Wonderful to have you, and wonderful to have you, MD. Welcome back. We're also glad to have one of our partners, the IEBC, represented by High Commissioner Dr. Alutalala Mukhwana. He's in charge of communication and partnerships. And last but not least, Martin Masai from the Kenya Editors Guild. He chairs a very important committee, the Ethics and Media Freedom Committee. So let's pick up from where we left before the break. And you, Mr. Commissioner, had brought up you're reflecting on the comments made by the chairman of the KBC board. Mr. Tom Shindi in an earlier event, the official event, just before we came into this discussion, and he talked about the place of radio in cultural preservation. Let's go to the chair, Mr. Mshindi himself, to hear a bit more. For those who might have missed what she said earlier, could you reflect a bit more on that, Mr. Mshindi?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. First of all, thank you to the panel that has led us through a very exciting and important discussion this morning. Thank you all also, the viewers and everybody else, for joining us for celebrating this World Radio Day. Here, it's a whole week because of the importance of radio. I don't want to belabor the points that have been made, with which I associate fully, but I think I just want to echo on the point of the importance of using radio for the reasons that have been highlighted here: its resilience, its connectivity, its believability, and its capacity to reach the inner recesses of the mind to preserve our culture. As the Commissioner said, we do have, as a country, a challenge around identity, who we are, our language, our values, our interests, and everything else that identifies us, our music, our foods, our, the way we dress, and so on and so forth. Now, we obviously are not going to go back and deny the reality of modernity and everything else. But as we evolve and continue to have conversations in the committees of nation, regionally, globally, we must use our radio to remind ourselves from our own homes of who are we and where are we really going. Now, it's not an easy conversation because, again, the contradictions of technology. There's so much information currently, everywhere. And because of the way in which people are consuming, it has become very individualistic. Radio is probably the only thing that is still kind of communal. As Bwana was saying, radio can actually instruct you to go to a market, listen to it, and tell you, okay, tumemaliza sasa turudi nyumbani. So those unique attributes need to really be something that we should leverage as a community, as a country. And the director is here, we working together to see how does this public service dimension of the work that KBC does come in, how do we clarify it, how do we finance it, to ensure that that dimension is emphasized and given the importance that it deserves. The second point, very quickly, before I hand over the mic, is the issue of AI. It's fascinating that, of course, we are discussing this thing here. And, just the other day when we were in print with Martin here, it's just barely 15 years ago when, print dominated. Print now is, something that really nobody is talking much about, but we're talking about radio. And we have to bring in the issue of AI in this conversation. I agree with our MD that the fundi will remain relevant, but the fundi needs to really style up very quickly and very urgently, because generative AI that we are currently discussing can actually create a story. And there have been instances around the globe where stories have been put on air, in magazines, in publishing, on radio. You can't actually have a radio station run through AI-generated stuff. Robotics have taken over or can take over. So the environment that we have to create, the monitoring, the regulatory, the policy environment is critical, because we're not running away from this one. We still have a small window, because a lot of these AI tools cannot converse in Kikisi, in Kiluya, in Jaluo yet, because there isn't enough of the material that they are learning on, because they learn from existing material. But it's coming up very, very quickly. So the challenge we have as managers, as leading teams that produce this, is to ensure that we retool the thinking of our people, our journalists, the minds of our editors, to enable them to use AI to make themselves better, more efficient, but also guard against biases and other things that AI can very easily throw up and really create a lot of chaos. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for that, Chairman KBC Board, Tom Shindi. That window that he spoke about is fast closing, isn't it? It's open, but it's fast closing.
John, if you allow me, there's something that has crossed my mind as Tom was speaking. Whenever we have an industry stakeholders meeting as a ministry, there's always this question that comes up about media sustainability in Kenya. It's a conversation we've had for quite a bit, and we really don't usually point to something. And it just reminded me, what is the place of radio in media sustainability in this country? And if you look at the trends, media houses, so to speak, that adopted radio earlier on when the airwaves opened up, they have actually lived off radio for quite a bit of time. And Tom is a seasoned media manager, so he understands that...
At some point, they lived off newspapers. So
Yeah,
for a while.
Yeah, so...
That's changed now.
That has really changed. And radio has sustained media in Kenya for quite a bit of time. And the evidence is there to see. So as we move into this next phase, the conversation should be, how do we then, as Tom puts it, how do we then leverage this resilience, this media that is serving our people where the need is the most, to push this sustainability agenda beyond where we are now. And it speaks to a lot of things. If you look at radio, for example, the cost of setting up a radio station and running it compared to other media, for instance. You can't compare setting up a radio. That is why you have, as we are being told, almost all counties except 2 have resident radio stations. So you don't need much to put up a radio station. And if you look at the returns out of it, is higher than maybe the cost of setting up. So it's a conversation we need to have, and we need to leverage this our unique media consumption trait, especially around radio, to to make this media sustainability story a reality. So I think that would be...
MD, the director is speaking about sustainability, but we are also, in addition to the challenge of technology, there's also the concept of KBC now, not just with its public service mandate, but also as a government-owned enterprise and running, sustainable, sheep, as it were. Those are some of the challenges that in your office you've got to deal with your team on a day-to-day basis, isn't it? And just, what's that place of KBC now with the whole concept of a government-owned enterprise?
I think going back to sustainability, I think for me is not just about money. And right now at KBC, yes, KBC, I know it's something that keeps me awake at night. KBC must pay its bills, maintain its transmitters, keep the lights on. But the true sustainability for Kenyan radio is much deeper. And here we're talking about ability to keep you, serving you when no one is watching, when there's no election hype, when the advertising budget, dry up, when the crisis is over. For public radio like KBC, sustainability means that the government understands that we are not a business first. We are a service, and I'm sure it's a conversation right now we are going to have, especially in transitioning to a government-owned enterprise. We reach places where commercial radio won't go because there's no profit there. But the Kenyans are there. They really need information. They need to be counted, which also means sustainability means keeping that trust alive. If we chase quick money right now as a public broadcaster through sponsored content that isn't labeled, we lose you. We lose our customers. We lose our audiences. And once you lose a listener, that trust is gone. And it also means sustainability means investing in our people so that the best journalists don't leave KBC for better pay. It means replacing that 20-year-old transmitter before it dies completely. For me, it means digitizing our archives so that our history does not turn to dust. So this sustainability, where does it sit in Kenyan radio? For me, it's very simple. It sits at its very own foundation. Without it, we cannot plan. Without it, we are always reacting, never building. Without it, it's the voice that has been used since independence that goes silent. And that, for me, is not an option. Yeah.
No options there. Wow. Sustainability is so much more deeper than what might be on the surface. Let's get some reflections, and then we'll come back to our panel from Mr. Jode from the ICT Authority. Tony Jode, he knows all matters regarding AI. Tony, when you hear these reflections here, and from those of us who are nostalgic about radio and how far it's come, and then you were talking earlier about your mother using artificial intelligence in the village to figure out her medicine. What's this animal called artificial intelligence? What exactly is it? How do we turn our radios, particularly the KBC radios, with all its power, harnessing on artificial intelligence? Give us some tips, man.
Thank you so much for that question. And I also want to join my colleagues in appreciating the panelists. It's a wonderful discussion that is going on. And I cannot help but think about Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution. So if you look at human beings, they have hardly evolved, but technology has evolved. But then if you look at human beings again, they are augmented. Like if I look at the gentleman there with the nice suit, he has a microphone plugged onto his suit. That's augmentation. If I look at the CEO, she has a tablet there. That's augmentation. I'm augmenting myself right now, speaking on the microphone. So artificial intelligence is just another form of augmentation. We are now not augmenting our sensories, like let's say, for example, my voice. We are now augmenting intelligence. I'm combining my intelligence and the intelligence of a machine so that together, I think we are artificial intelligence. I don't think artificial intelligence is complete without bringing in the human component. So for the most part, change management is something that I think is important. Training is something that I think is important. Understanding, bringing understanding into this space of artificial intelligence is also important because a majority of people don't know what it is. If you ask me, AI, what it is, I'll tell you it's a statistical model that is able to take in an input and give you an output with the highest level of productivity and ease. That is how I would define it. Now, we all use it in different capacities. When you're in traffic and you're using Google Maps, and Google Maps is telling you how to get home, that is artificial intelligence. When you're on Spotify, I've had KBCs on Spotify. When KBC is being recommended to somebody in, yes? Okay, thank you. When KBC is being recommended to a listener in Norway, because if you're on Spotify, now you're global. That is artificial intelligence, recommending KBC to this person. So artificial intelligence is already here. As a matter of fact, it has been here since 1950, in the 1950s, where the word was actually coined. And it has evolved to a point where in 2017, when the paper by Google was published called Attention is All You Need, the transformer neural networks that brought generative AI, which we heard about, and even now agentic AI was born. And now this generative AI and this agentic AI is what we must now live with. Now, the CEO has said something. She has said that AI cannot replace you. That is true. The lady who does Sundowner, AI cannot replace her. That is soul. That is spirit. That is something that you cannot replicate. But if that lady uses AI, she's now at another level. You know, in radio it's easy, but in my space where I work, in computer science, where we are doing programming and we are developing enterprise systems, you're cooked if you're not using AI.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
Yeah. Okay, I'll stop it at that.
Yeah,
and
that's wonderful. Yeah, I really want to get the voices of the young people who've got a few questions. But just before that, Mr. Buhari, as a trainer, KMC, big trainer of radio broadcasters since 1961, what's the place of AI in training radio broadcasters for now? And we've used the term retooling for those of us who might still want to retain our jobs. Maybe there might be an opportunity for us to come back to KRMC before it's too late. Is there such an opportunity?
A nostalgic journey that we have traveled. And I want also to recall with nostalgia that KBC and KMC have been twins till 1989 when we all got our own, we became agencies away from the ministry. And we want to thank the ministry for being there. KBC left quite a lot of infrastructure that we are still using today, and we've been able to overhaul based on the emerging trends in audio-visual, and radio is one of them. Today, we are now talking about digital audio workstation, and unlike before, where we had 10 by 10 room, 2 of them, where we have the gallery program manager, and we have the presenter, the artist, and communicating and recording all that. Today, we will do everything together, everything at the same time at what we are calling DAW, that is Digital Audio Workstation. Now, an element of, let me also talk about how we are also able to live with the trends in the market and the industry, where, of course, I'm the industrial liaison officer who will be able to do a lot of research to get to know what the industry is all about, and our internship programs to get to know what the industry requires. And we also have, other than having scholars and researchers who are quarantined at KMC, we are also having industry-based adjuncts who are also coming to retool both the trainees and also benchmark with what's available and inform us on new developments. So an element of AI has come in very much. And then today, as it were, we are not just recording, we are not just looking at the golden voice of John. We are going beyond. Besides just golden voice, we are also saying, remember we are on podcast, we also want to see John behind the golden voice, and we want to see John physically on our screens. So we're having the podcast.
So radio is not just for the shy people like me.
Yeah, it's not just shy people. you do some little, makeup and, because, your voice is golden, but we want to see the golden voice behind the mic.
Okay.
Today we have the podcast.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So we are also training on podcasts. We are also trying to work with the industry to get to know an element of AI. Someone talked about an AI. If you did a script and gave AI to interpret for you or do for you audio, it will give you various accents. It will give you Chinese. It will give you American. It will give you British. It won't give you John with my Luya accent. It will not. It will not. So it's very important, however, as we are saying, behind the scenes, the golden voices, we can still be able to, we have futuristic element out of that. John's voice can be used 100 years from now.
Yeah, and you've had voices of people who are dead.
Yes, we can have John's voice, and then we can actually do the write-up, the script, and John's voice can come to life. We can have Mambo Mbotela's voice be worked on, and it can actually give us a different audio output.
Those are deep ethical issues, as Mr. Masai will obviously
reflect
on. Yeah.
But again, what's happening today, you can actually be able to provide, if you have any foundation, for instance, your caregivers can be able to provide that license for audio stations to be able to use your voice. And then there's some little royalty coming to the family or coming to the establishment.
Okay, really quickly, thank you so much for that, Mr. Boher, and thank you for the partnership with KBC, particularly during this World Radio Week. It's been wonderful. As Masai will reflect on, just before we go to the students, hang on, Gen Z, just relax. We're coming to you. Yeah.
Just look at this situation, that now we have a news bulletin produced in the voice of Stephen Kikumu today.
One of the pioneer broadcasters, yeah.
You look at the ethical issues, people run away in villages. This man has woken up, So these are the things that are coming up. But it's important also for us to note here in this panel that with AI, radio is not dying. It's just getting much more dynamic. It's a question of how do we deploy this tool. Thank you.
Okay, let's hear from our audience of young journalism students and radio producers from across Kenya.
So my question is, how accurate AI is in translating news in Kiswahili and other local languages?
My question is on job security, which Director Agnes has touched on. But as the youths of today integrate the job market, we are finding out just how hard it is, especially in broadcast media, to be the replacement or to train enough to be the future of broadcast media, and especially because Kenyan audiences treasure familiarity and nostalgia, which we have been told can be recreated by AI. Now, I wanted to ask, do we stick to creativity only, or how else can we manipulate this AI to benefit us more than it benefits itself? Thank you.
My question is, we keep mentioning AI and how we need it for the future. But what particular skills do radio presenters and radio editors and radio journalists need to have so that AI works for them and not vice versa? Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for those questions. Andy, I think you want to respond to a question about job. Yeah. There was accuracy, but she also spoke about job security and whether young people are getting a little disillusioned who are training like her. Maybe you want to speak about the accuracy of translation first.
Yeah, I can speak first about the accuracy,
Yeah.
and then I'll go to the young lady who is very worried about the jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's one of the professional dilemmas which we face right now, especially when it comes to accuracy. Now, the good thing with young broadcasters right now, they bring in fresh energy, but the dilemma, the real dilemma is in this very fast-paced, world, tech scraping, AI will be able to draft quickly, but, there's always that there's always that, push to break news fast without verification. Now, what we're doing in KBC, we verify, first of all. We don't rush to break news, and it's part of our, editorial policy. Verify fast. If the president says, something, you just don't go and air it. You step back and ask one source or the other. So in terms of accuracy, I know it's a dilemma, but within our, editorial policies, we are usually, we ensure that is, taken care of that. And that's why you see also in KBC, we don't get some of these, libel cases because we've trained our reporters. First of all, the issue is not to break news fast. I know it's important, but to verify, ensure you have the accurate information. On the job issue, I know it's a big challenge right now, and the young people are quite worried, especially in this age. There's also the issue of nostalgia, whereby you feel the old reporters, because of that, they are more valued. Take, for example, Catherine Donio, replacing that will be difficult. But there's an opportunity for you. And that's why in KBC, right now, what we are doing is that we also have a cohort of young reporters. We are training them so that they can get their own space and, take and own that space. And, in KBC, we have a youth station called Y254, whereby, and you're welcome to also visit and then see what they do. So we have that training for young reporters to ensure that you're also not left out. You create your own space.
Yeah.
I think for me, Albert has raised a very important question. And as government, I think it sits at the core of what we do. Albert has asked, from a student of BBIT from Strathmore, has asked what range of skills do you need to survive this transition. I will tell you, Albert, it's as many skills as you need. Let me give you a case, for example. MD here and chairman, we always pushed to reduce the information gap, to serve the underserved and the unserved parts of this country. And the MD will tell you it's very expensive to do a radio broadcast and, to put up the mast and the power cost and everything else. It's not a cheap venture. But I know there are technologies, there are innovations. You young people have access to a lot of broadcast technologies, digital broadcast technologies. So if you can come together as innovators, as techies, and give us a technology that is homegrown, that will help us broadcast in areas where that is unserved, using the fiber that ICTA is laying. If we're able to, bring Mandera on board, if you're able to bring Wajir, we have a range of places because KBC and the ministry, we have this public service mandate to make sure that the people in all parts of the country have access to radio broadcast, or to broadcasting as it were. But then if you look at the existing technologies, are expensive, okay? But with the new technologies, including the AI we are discussing today, if you're able to have homegrown solutions that can be able to enable us as KBC and as the ministry and as government to deliver broadcast services to these areas, then you're good and home and dry. Remember when internet came and we had the likes of Aisi Makatiani and those innovators that pushed us to the global map from the innovations they made at that time. We are looking for that next generation of young innovators that can give us these technologies to be able to leapfrog broadcasting.
Yeah, let's get some reflections from you as we come towards the close of this discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I think I want to agree with what my brother Tom Shindi said, that yes, fundis will remain, but the fundi must style up. I think that's a very, very germane point. That whereas we may say that we can assure that jobs will be retained, we also have to look at the utility of the fundi in view of the situation. And because life is really life-paced now, and some of us growing up, we were told patience is a virtue. Hakuna haja ya kukimbia. Siku hizi mbio zina umuhimu. Watangulie kabla yako. So we'll have to balance the situation where you have to take time and yet you can get the same thing. And when I listen to the gentleman, the ICT engineer, he seems to have very little patience with this proposal that that technology will not overtake everything else. He's a bit polite. He says that it only augments. He's just being polite. But what he's saying is that he has no patience. Everything should go.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Wonderful. Masai.
Yeah, I could say this. I agree with the IT gentleman here that AI has been with us for quite some time. For instance, spell checking, things like grammar, as you use word. So really, AI has been here. It's probably that there is so much buzz about it, like it is just been founded. I've also heard a gentleman behind there speaking about translation, and I'm now speaking as a user. When I find a script in Kikamba, my mother tongue, and I see this is a story that I must use.
You put it on Google Translate?
In a blog that I use. And you even use Gemini to do that.
Yeah.
You want to commit suicide if you deploy it the way it is. So there must be a human hand to make sure that it makes sense, because you understand your audiences. But if you want to be lazy, just deploy it. No one will ever read your story. I have listened to my young lady there about job security. But we are also in the era of modern day jobs. I know of so many young people who do many jobs at night. They are sitting in a house in Nairobi or Machakos, where I come from, and they do jobs in America online. At night they sleep daytime, and they are earning a lot of money. So do not be fixated with the jobs that we have taken ourselves. You know, this is something of the past. Think new, because you have a wonderful opportunity with technology.
Yeah.
Don't get fixated with the old stuff like the Santuri we were seeing there. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. We just have a minute to quickly...
Same.
We
as trainers of journalists, we as trainers of radio, we are still in the market. We must train you. We must train fundis. As you said earlier, you cannot spell check without having content. You develop content, and then the old AI, as it were, it will spell check for you. It can't spell check for you nothing. Today, they say garbage in, garbage out. If you give AI garbage, it will give you garbage. And AI is a fast learner. It's a very meticulous learner. You ask it something, it thinks for you because you have asked for it. If you don't ask, it will not give you anything. So I'm saying the fundi will prevail. The trainers of fundis, we as trainers of journalists, will still prevail. Hakuna maji tunaenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Within just a minute, could you just get your reflections then on this discussion and on the challenges that lie ahead and how we can confront them, just like really briefly.
I think we're talking about the challenges and the opportunities, but then for me, as I close, I want to invite the public. We have an interesting show on Friday, whereby we have, listeners of Sundowner will be hosting them at KBC. So the public, there's a link on our social media pages. Please join and register so that you can come have fun with that. But also, just to reflect on this, kind of exhibition we are having for the Radio Week, is that now for the older generation, we've talked about AI and the new generation. For them, it's a walk down memory lane, a chance to see the microphone that our legend, the Leonard Mamumbatela, used. For the young, it's also an opportunity, an inspiration to show them that this industry has always changed, but the radio remained constant. We've moved from big boxes to very tiny, small boxes, from analog to digital, and we are moving to AI age. The equipment changes, but the mission to inform, to connect, to unite still remains the same.
Wonderful. And that's a good point at which to leave the discussion for now. Thank you so much indeed. Thanks to everyone who's contributed to this discussion, including those who are not on this end, but on the other. The students have been wonderful. Chairman Board of KBC, Tom Shindi. He had a column called Babs and Bouquets that we used to read many years ago on the Friday newspaper. Thank you so much, Tom. Tonya Jode from the ICT Authority, Mr. AI himself, who's got very little patience with the pace at which things are moving. But thank you so much indeed for sharing your expertise. And finally, from the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication, Wycliffe Buhere. His title is Principal Lecturer. And that's why he says, as trainers of the Fundis, they are going nowhere. Thank you so much. Thanks to the audience. Just like to thank the wonderful panel that's been with us here today. Secretary Information and Broadcasting, Ministry of ICT and the Digital Economy, Mr. Temesi Mukani. Thank you so much indeed. Wonderful to see you. Don't make it be so long till we next see you. Last time I was in Gong, so it's wonderful to have you here at Broadcasting House. MD, CEO, KBC, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, Agnes Kaleche, thank you so much. And beautiful dress. Did the gentleman compliment you? It is Valentine's season, yeah. Thank you so much from the Kenya Editors Guild, Chair of the Ethics and Media Freedom Committee, Martin Masai, the only man to have transitioned, you say, from newspaper to radio. Wow. And last but not least, and we hope to see him at Ingo FM very, very soon, where he's more at home. He's commissioner with IEBC.
And please reserve a spot for IBC to talk about the upcoming voter registration and to appeal to our young people to use what they have to achieve what they desire to achieve. Mkulima si jembe, hata kisereme ni jembe. Hakikisha ujiandikishe. Rather than just sit back and say, until you digitize, then we'll come. It will not happen. Please come and use the opportunity you have to change what you want to be changed. So please give us an opportunity on that day as well. I thank you.
Wonderful, and thank you so much indeed for spending time with us today. Dr. Lutalala Mukwana, Chairperson, Voter Education, Partnerships, Communication, and Stakeholder Engagement with the IEBC. Thank you very much indeed. From all of us on the panel, please keep this conversation alive. Look us up on digital platforms. The pages and the connection to those digital platforms are on the screen as we speak. Until the next time, happy World Radio Week.
James?